And I will double check. Hello, everyone. We're so happy you're here with us. We just have to get confirmation that we are live. We saw the go sign, which tells us we are live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We would love to ask you to share this wherever you're watching, whether it's on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook. And I know our technical support from MM360, Nelson is watching for us. Thank you, Nelson, for letting us know. Let us know that we are live. We should be now. I'm going to verify Dr. Slava. Dr. Slava, go ahead and greet us. And
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this exciting episode, exciting event with Dr. Alisa Whyte. I'm so thrilled to share with you our plans for the future and our vision for the future. A little bit of update on my role also through the MM360 movement. We're very, very excited, and I hope I'm gonna leave some reference to where you can find some of the videos I have been creating on Instagram for some of the causes that I'm very passionate about, which is basically education as a fundamental human right and children. Anything has to do with children, early development, children protection, children's rights, because I believe children are our future. So I do have a special initiative that I post on Instagram, What COP initiative, What About the Children in Palestine? As some of you know, my father is Palestinian, my mom is Jordanian. I was born and raised in Saudi Arabia. But of course, the movement MM360 inspired me to really dig deep into my passions and bring them out there into the social media. And the other thing is the podcast that we're going to talk about that Dr. Alyssa really pushed me to create, chatting with Slava the Jordanian, and we will talk about that podcast, and that's why we're here. So thank you so much for joining us live. I really, really appreciate it. I'm so honored, thankful, and grateful. Very, very blessed for this opportunity.
Absolutely, Dr. Slava, we appreciate you. And like she said, I pushed her. I went boom into
Go.
her destiny. No, she was ready. The universe aligned. Dr. Slava and I met a couple of years ago. No, a year ago, right?
There you
It
go.
feels like
Yeah,
a long
it
time.
does. It's a good
Yes,
thing.
through our mutual friend and sister Deb. I think now we're called the Dynamic Trio.
Yeah.
That's like a group conversation in our text messages. So whoops, we don't want feedback, but we're happy to be live on all platforms. We got the go ahead that we are live. So we're going to officially kick off again. Welcome, 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 everyone. We're calling this a live chat with Dr. Slava and Dr. Alisa here. Just simple. We just want to come on live and share with you all. So if you are here with us, just put in the chat where you're watching us from. We just love to know where you're watching us from so that we can, follow back up with you because we know that we have MM360 and we do have a global platform, both of us. So we're both women. We are both immigrants, which we can't wait to share the concept of the podcast and proud American citizens as well. So welcome to us where we're sharing our platforms of elevating voices and expanding impact. We know that you have met Dr. Slava a little bit, but we will officially have her share more behind her story and her why in this conversation. I am beyond excited to be able to spend time with you all on Saturday morning because you all know Dr. Slava is an entrepreneur. She is a dentist and she has a full-fledged staff and a franchise as well. And most of you on my social media know I do all the things. So let's not even talk about it. For us to be on with you at 1:30 p.m. on a Saturday and 11:30 a.m. for Arizona, it is definitely something really important. It's huge. And so we take the time out to share it with you and make sure that you're well informed. Not only we're not busy, we know you're busy as well. So the fact that you're watching this, whether you're watching it live, I want you to put live in the chat. If you're watching the replay, I would love to see you put replay in the chat. And yes, we're watching the chat to see when you do pop up. We'll be watching it to interact with you. We will have a little bit of a Q&A at the end as well. So what is Mindset Mastery Media? That's what we call a space that we are creating to welcome the future of on-demand content platform. It's going to help us spread the message, the light and love of what we do in our work, in our lives as professional and thought leaders, and also as a collective in MM360. So we're very, very happy that you're joining us. So we're going to dive right into one of our first projects. Well, you already know Mindset Mastery Moments, the podcast, Mindset Mastery Moments with Dr. Alisa, that I was blessed and honored to start a couple years ago now. Where are we now? I know we completed our first year. And so the platform was not only about me. You've seen Dr. Slava, and we've had amazing thought leaders and coaches and speakers from around the world. And so with us advancing our platform at MM360, it's definitely our goal to not just have one voice, it's many voices coming together as a collective that will lead this transformational piece of your mindset is the key to your success. So when I met you, Dr. Slava, you had an amazing journey, a transformational story. But
Yeah.
let's agree, everyone has a story, right?
Everybody
And
has a story.
everyone
Absolutely.
is doing, but not everyone is willing to
Yes.
share those
Yeah.
stories. Not everyone has mastered the art yet of translating their personal story and journey to make it matter to someone else, to inspire, motivate, and encourage them that they can win too. At
Mhm.
Mindset Mastery Moments, we say your mindset is the key to your success. At Chatting with Slava the Jordanian, we say master your mindset
Mastering an unlimited mindset by eliminating limited beliefs
and
and
beliefs.
thoughts.
Same thing, and thoughts. So that is what we're all about in our MM360 is transforming your mindset so you can
Mhm.
create success in your life, your business, your career, and ultimately changing the trajectory of socioeconomic growth and development in your local communities. And then obviously it will affect your country, your and the world. So that is our mission, clear and straight. So Dr. Slava, when I connected with her, and she already was very poised and articulate with the camera and her words, it was like, okay, let's do this series. And then I said, Dr. Slava, you know what? We're working on developing Mindset Mastery Media. Um, Maybe you can be the first podcast. You need to have your own podcast. You do not need to be locked into 5 episodes of Mindset Mastery Moments, which we're open to. And it's part of what we're working on, which is creating different special series throughout Mindset Mastery Moments, MM360. But I just knew her distinction. So, Dr. Slava, we're going to have you take the microphone and tell us why you why you do what you do when it comes to chatting with Slava the Jordanian, because it is its own entity now. It's in the world. We officially published it on all the platforms for podcasting and YouTube. It is part of the Mindset Mastery media network of podcast and on-demand content already officially, and we're so grateful for that partnership. um, but why did you wanted to have this conversation? What is chatting with Slava the Jordanian all about? And of course, we're going to introduce your co-host in a little bit.
Yeah, thank you so much for that intro. I really appreciate it. That's a great question. Two beliefs. The first belief is first and foremost, we are human. Humanity thrived, humanity survived on storytelling. As you know, there was no languages, nobody wrote, nobody read. The news and the teachings and the lessons and the mentoring and the leadership came through storytelling. People used to
Yes.
have, unfortunately, more than today, the ability to memorize detail and transfer that information from one region to another, from tribe to another. Number two, belief that humanity is a tribal in nature. We always look for support through our tribe. We always look through support through our organization, community, family. So these two together, I am created or designed the idea of coming forward to tell the stories. Why now? Because stumbled on the MM360, and Dr. Alisa and Deborah encouraged me to speak out. And through my work, 26 years in dentistry, I have 30 team members, and I tell stories all the time. I learn a lot of stories from the team and the patients. And some of them every now and then will say, you should write those stories down. I have so many stories I've heard over the double decade that I've been in public service. So but recently, since my brand expanded, I start meeting very young entrepreneurs from Jordan, from Lebanon, from Palestine, and very young family, very young professionals, newcomers to the United States. So I got to know them, tell them my story, my migration story, and they have fascinating stories, but they are so quiet about it. So I met my co-host JD Youssef, and his family story is fascinating. We connected, we identified with a lot of the concepts of the journey. We match so many different events. We have the same background, same history. We witness so many the similar conflict events and the nature of displacement too. And I was always fascinated how human through history, I'm a student of history, how somebody can displace themselves and rip their roots and move somewhere else, whether from a small village, migrate from the small village into a city, or immigrate from their home world into the new world. So when I started talking to him, I said, "You're fascinating." He goes, "You think so?" It's like, "Oh my God, you're fascinating. You inspire me. You know, your stories bring the pride out of me as an Arab, as half Palestinian, half Jordanian, as an immigrant, as an American Arab." And I said, "You know, you should start telling the stories." And he's like, "No, absolutely not." I'm like, "Why not?" He's like, "Well, nobody cares." I'm like, "Of course they do. If they hear the stories, nobody cares." So the premises behind that, everybody matters. What's important to the storyteller matters to us because, as I said before, humanity is built and based on storytelling. So I know there's digital devices, there's social media, which we're so grateful for because it connects us globally. Now the world is a smaller place more than ever because of the technology that we have. But if you don't use it for the reason to exchange stories, to share information, to teach somebody, there's nothing like that intimate moment when you're sitting with somebody having a cup of coffee and you have that talk, heart to heart talk that reminds you of your nana or your grandparents or your uncle or your mom or your sister or your brother. You'll be amazed when you meet a stranger and he's like, "Oh my God, it reminds me of my brother." You know, their facial expressions, the way they look at you with their eyes, their body language. You'll be amazed. It doesn't matter where you're from. So my hope as a humanitarian diplomat to the MM360 global movement is to rekindle this tool of communication by using the technology and the social media in order to bring us together closer and help other people that are underserved and they are without a voice to have a voice to tell them that, hey, your story does matter. Your story did inspire other people. Your story made a difference. Your story made an impact on somebody's life. Even if one person, it doesn't really matter. It will be like a wave of of effect on a lot of people. It goes from one person to the other 1%. That's how empires got built. That's how civilizations survived through history, is by telling your stories. I hope that makes sense. So
Absolutely, it does. 100%, it does, and I concur with it. Obviously, that's what we do on our podcast. When I started, I realized, even when I became a speaker to begin with, is I'm basically just sharing my knowledge and my story and my journey to empower and help people transform their own lives, and that is so courageous. But the community that's when you say, I mean, I've never thought about it that way, but when you say that humanity is built around stories, we don't realize that even our lives, because our lives are a result of the stories we tell ourselves in our own head to begin with.
yes,
So, the whole concept of storytelling and how you have honed in on the fact that it's so necessary. At the end of your podcast, you always say, keep mastering an unlimited mindset, but keep telling your stories, right?
for the sake
And
of
it's,
humanity, keep telling your
yes,
story.
keep telling
Yes.
your stories because,
Mhm.
and so when we think about storytelling, well, if we sat with our grandma and she was sharing information, there's a little bit of judgment, but there's not a lot of judgment. It's more like, what is she going to say next? And what am I going to learn about myself? And what am I going to learn about her or my family? And so, if you can stay in a space of releasing, letting go of as much judgment as you can when you listen to someone else's story or their version of their experience, that alone is healing for humanity, right? And so, Dr. Slava, you chose to focus in on entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
um, to uplift and educate not the world about Arab intellect and the
Yes.
Arab journey
Mhm.
from the different Arabian countries, and then also to tie that link to your journey to the US. And so we can tell, there's that statement, let me show you, I can show you better than I could tell you. So let's play a clip from one of the episodes
Sure.
that I picked out so so our listeners and viewers can
So,
see a
are
bit
you
of it.
guys ready? Let's dive into
Great.
it, okay? So, I guess would be the first question is, what are those beliefs? What are those traditional gender role expectations and beliefs that we pack with us when we leave our home world? And like I said, embarked into a new world. What do they look like? How do they feel? And what kind of challenges that we go through in order to decide whether we want to embrace those traditional beliefs and make them our, Bible for our new life, or do we do half and half? Do we do a hybrid kind of mindset, whether we are maintaining and cherishing and valuing those beliefs, but also at the same time putting a modern twist, some practical concepts to it, and make it our own, right? Depending on where we land in the part of the world. Or do we just shed it all out? Do we just leave everything behind, completely strip those beliefs, create our own 100% our own values and beliefs, and create a new life, create our identity? And that's one of the things we will tap on in the future.
Especially with family and what we're all about, right? But not taking anything that isn't deserved, right? Just these simple things that, again, are very mild, but it speaks volumes about how you're raised and your character, right, and where you come from. So that's something that we want to try to give to people. We want to share our culture. So
yeah, that's very interesting. And just like I mentioned earlier, it really depends where you land.
didn't say anything, right? And so immediately sent to the principals, parents got involved. That was the first time that I felt a bit different. So I guess to your second question, where does the Joseph and the Yusuf play in? It's almost like a survival mechanism.
Because honestly, when I did it, but that's just the maverick in me. When I did it, I thought, because I was always taught by my parents, do the right thing because it's always the right thing to do. And that is part of the pride. Speaking of beliefs, those are one of the values and the beliefs I still carry with me. So being a 30-year-old, just graduated from dental school, new appointment, no new associate condition, that's my livelihood. It's like either I get fired because of that, or people are going to admire it. And it was fine. I did not get.
There we go. Just a clip from Dr. Slava's chatting with Slava the Jordanian. And you see her and her wonderful co-host, JD Youssef. And I'm going to let Dr. Slava share a little bit about JD Youssef. He is an amazing human being. I've had the pleasure of interacting with him myself. So, Dr. Slava, let's have you tell us about what we just saw and a little bit about Joseph.
Yeah, so I met Yusuf. Yusuf is American, Palestinian, Lebanese young man. He was born in California and he resides in Alabama right now. He is a lawyer. He's an employment lawyer and a contract lawyer. And I had the pleasure of meeting him through LinkedIn when we started our franchise. Since the inception of our franchise, we've been dealing with him. So when we launched our franchise, he contacted us and he liked our concept and our model. And his specialty is writing grants. He writes grants to charitable foundations all around the United States for minorities and female entrepreneur and female businesses. So we started talking and we got together and we decided to make him the chief logistic and strategic officer for the franchise brand. And then as I got to know him, we went out in meetings and stuff. He had fascinating story. He's very, very, very passionate. He is very committed. He has such a big heart. But every time I asked him about his background, his life, his parents' story, he was hesitating to share anything with me. And I asked him and I said, we're from the same blood and soil and region. You should be comfortable talking to me. You share with me stories. I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot from you. Because when you share a story with somebody, there are two concepts of the story as a listener, as you are receiving that information. You can learn a lot about how to look at things or how to look at life. But also you need to keep in mind that person that's sharing this information and the data or the events that of their journey, of their story, that's their perception of the event. That's their emotional interpretation of what happened, which is fascinating. And that opens even more channels to discuss and talk, and it goes on and on and on. And I believe that when you have a connection, when you have an interaction, you will know within that 2 minutes whether you have a connection or not, just like any relationship, and then becomes a relationship. So those are the three stages that I went through with Yusuf. Is we had a connection, we had an interaction because of the franchise. Then we connected because of our mutual background and our stories. And Arab culture is a culture of storytelling. And I'm sure that South American culture, African culture, Asian culture, Indian culture, all the Eastern ancient culture is all about storytelling. Like I said, that's how they transported in that information and shared that information. That information got spread along huge wide range of regions. So this is our passion. We sit together, tell a story, we share a story with no judgment. Actually, our culture does not really judge. We can tease sometimes and be critic and skeptical about things like, are you sure that's what happened? So we just give each other a hard time, but we don't really judge. At the end of the day, we just enjoy each other's company. Then I, of course, when I'm talking to you, I talk to you about it. And I said, you know what, Yusuf, we should have a podcast. We start laughing about it. And he goes, oh, come on. I don't have that voice. I'm like, of course you have a radio voice. You have that presence. And we start talking about it. And honestly, he'll agree with it. I didn't give him a choice. I said, we're doing this. And I said, he goes, Slava, it's Dr. Slava, I don't even share my stories with my friends in Alabama. Why would I go in public on a social media global platform and start talking about my family? I said, because you need it. It's good for you. It's like therapy. Because Arabs, again, our culture, we don't believe in therapy. And we talked about it in so many episodes that we draw
Yes.
our strength from either spirituality or the traditional tribal connection that we have with our family, our neighbors, or we go have a meal with a friend or have a cup of coffee, and that's our therapy. We are very extroverted, people oriented race.
Yes.
And Arabs are basically, and Arab is identify with anybody that consider Arabic as their first language. And it's a very tribal nomadic culture that just, it's a lot hunters and gatherer kind of culture.
Yes.
We're very, very nostalgic about our past and our stories, and we're so proud of, even if your grandfather was a farmer, had a little house, and his son happened to migrate, we're just proud of that. We're proud of being, and that's where
Yes.
we wanted to transcend through the podcast, to shed a different light on our culture. That our culture is very colorful, it's spicy, it's
Yes.
storytelling, very nostalgic, very, very, very passionate, sometimes way too passionate about things.
And that is so, the thing about it though, we walk away from an episode. I've listened to every episode at least a couple of times on my drive back and forth to beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, to say, because it's always so much traffic. Urgh.
Yeah.
So, but I enjoy, of course, I listen to my podcast as well. So now I have a ton of podcasts that I listen to, but yours is definitely a favorite because I'm learning so much, not only about you, but about another culture. But it still seems like you're talking about me and my culture. So I get to see myself, but then the lessons I know recently, I think the most recent episode 3, or was it 4, that
4.
you talked about mental health as an immigrant. Oh my gosh. Listen, guys, whether you're an immigrant or not, you have to listen to that episode. If you just take it from me, all of them are great. She still has so many more. They're going to be published every Wednesday by 8 a.m. They're usually out before. It's probably out the day before, but you can tune in at 8 a.m. on Wednesdays, and that episode is live, chatting with Slava the Jordanian on the Mindset Mastery media on Apple, but then on all Spotify. If you go on Spotify, you get to see both video and audio if you want to, and it's on everything throughout the world. We have the list here. We're going to share with you the website here in a bit, so you can go figure out which player you want to hear it from. That's the thing about us with the content distribution, is making sure it's everywhere, so anybody can get it. And some of those platforms even translate it and transcribe it as well. So it's just a wonderful thing. But the point is, Dr. Slava and her co-host Yusuf, who were so honored. Also, he just accepted to be one of our Global Impact Envoys, and he'll be working with our core team to help us as we formulate our foundation for MM360 as well, and do some of the funding things. That's a whole nother live. But they were talking about an article and they went over it. And Dr. Slava, you shared that from reading that article, you felt heard and seen for something you thought you were partially like, is it just me? And I remember going through depression for multiple reasons. Oh, you made me got so teary-eyed because I'm connecting
Don't
to
cry.
that pain. When I moved to the USA, one of the things that really caused me to just want to go back was that my education was not validated as equal. And I proved them wrong, obviously, because I had to go all the way back and start my degree, my associate degree, coming from Guyana. And I always laugh because I did that entire degree in 9 months. I did it was 63, I think, credit hours. I did it in 9 months. Like, I went to school. I don't know how many classes I took, and I was working at the time at the same time, but it was business administration. And I did do early childhood education as well. Did it in 9 months. You know why? Because I already did that stuff in high school. Right. But that was the standard. And that alone, to start over, I always talk about leaving my home and my business that we built and coming with 160 US dollars and my carry-on and a suitcase. And I don't even know what I had in there, because there's not a lot. You can't bring your life in there, right? Dr. Slava,
Yep.
talk to us about that, please. Talk to us about that, please, really quick. And why this podcast? For everyone, because you want to know that what your counterparts, your colleagues, your friends, what we are going through if we're just getting here, and what we have gone through. What's our story? And when you look at us, what you really see. So tell us about that.
Yeah, all of you that's listening live need to learn or understand that when a human being, any human being, regardless of your race, background, religion, faith, belief system, when you decide to displace yourself by design or by default, meaning that you had no other choice, poverty, famine, war, social, economical, circumstances, or by design, meaning that you had a good life, you want to improve your quality of life, regardless what kind of social status you had, what kind of, if you're affluent family or not so affluent family, blue collar, white collar, it doesn't really matter. A human is a human being. You are leaving everything that you know and everybody that you love behind and embarking into the new world. Now, what that new world looks like, some of us will research that new world depending on what our ultimate goal is to achieve. You want to go to Europe instead of the United States because you speak French, you speak German. A lot of the people, especially Arab, they're bilingual or trilingual even, because in that region you can pick up a lot of languages easy, because we're so close to Europe. So, or you want to come to United States, you need to understand, you have to speak the language in order to read the signs. You need to understand the kind of rights that you have. Do you have the right to complain? You have the right to go to school, like Dr. Alisa said. How are you going to convert your degree into a new degree? I just interviewed a very beautiful young lady from Lebanon, a dentist in our office in one of our location, and she's a prosthodontist, which is she specializes in full mouth reconstruction, dentures and crown, and she can transform smiles. But the state of Massachusetts did not agree for her to get her license because her degree came from Lebanon, and she had to do the 5 years or the 6 years that she had in Lebanon, and she's a specialist. Where the New Hampshire state, which is my state, is they said that no, we're going to recognize you're a prosthodontist. You can have a license here, which is great because I'm looking for somebody in New Hampshire. So I agree with Dr. Alisa. You have already invested and you are vested in your future. So that's the first decision you got to make. Where am I going to go? The second question you have to ask yourself, why am I going? Is it worth it? We have a saying in Arabic, الغربة صعبة والثمن غالي. Being an estranged land is very, very hard because it takes a lot of adaptation, a lot of multitasking, and the price is high. The price is high mentally, emotionally, physically, financially. So we talk about displacement by default and by design, but also we talk about where does mental health fit in that journey, depending where you come from. If you're from the Western world, it is more recognized, it's more tolerable to say that, oh, I got depression, anxiety. When you're coming from a very traditional, classic, traditional culture, mental health does not exist because the tribal connection is what heals your mental health.
Mm.
Talking and conversing and discussing your problem. You can go talk to your grandmother. Everybody lives together, right? Grandmother, aunts, uncle, brothers, sisters. Where in the Western world, you're a lot more independent, you're a lot more alone. So you seek therapy, you seek a therapist, you seek a professional. But also,
Mhm.
we draw our strength, mental strength, from our spirituality. The Arab world is very spiritual, doesn't matter what kind of religion you have, or whether you're practicing into a structured religion, organized religion or not. We are very, very spiritual, and we always look up for answers. So we are
Right.
always trained and we're raised that if you're having any challenge, go do a prayer. Even if you don't pray all the time, your prayers, go read the holy book. A verse of the holy book is going to make you calm. Go take a nap,
Right.
meditate. We encourage that. Or go talk to your grandmother, you feel better. Go talk to your friend, play outside, you feel better. So that's the traditional approach to, why are you seeking a stranger to draw strength, to show you the way, to clarify
Right.
all these thoughts and your mindset, where you have all the support you can get, whether from family or spiritually, or even friends and neighbors. So we talk a lot about that, but also it ties into the traditional gender expectation too, with male female, with our society too, and males unfortunately have a lot more pressure still in the Eastern culture than female. You got to go earn and support and all that. But yeah, we definitely tap into that, but it's a lot more complicated than that. A journey is a journey regardless where you're coming from. Like I said, whether you migrate from the village to the city or immigrate
Mhm.
altogether from
Yep.
your home world into the new world. Yep.
Yes, yes. And that's so important. Whether we like it or not, we all have an immigrant journey.
Absolutely.
A lot of people think that whether you, and that the thing is, we just learned, and we were talking about this on um, Mindset Mastery Moments, that we have about four, I think we are currently, each of us are carrying about 4 years back, 4 generations back of trauma that is actively in our subconscious mind. And so with that being said, you might be a fourth generation immigrant, where not immigrant, where it was your great great grandmother who immigrated and your grandfather, but you've been here, and your fat mother was born here, and your grandparents were born here. But that fourth generation, they will have some level of that trauma with them. And so these conversations are important, and it's not just conversations and stories that comes from Dr. Slava's podcast. It's also the tools that you get to walk away with to help you transform your mindset, whether you are in the direct line of that area of growth and learning, or it is you as an observer or supporter, or it's family members that you're talking to. And by the way, we just want to say hello to those watching. Samuel Kufa is watching from Spain. And Philip Baker, thank you for watching from Arizona and interacting with us. Dr. Kareem from Ohio. And I know Owa is watching from Nigeria. So we're so happy that you all are joining this. Please share it with someone. So Dr. Slava, thank you so much for bringing that. That is unique. I have not seen. And it was so clear you identify who you wanted to speak to and what you wanted to speak about in the realm of mindset mastery. You're
Yes.
still wanting individuals to master their mindset and just unlocking their unlimited potential, because each of us has that in them. So tell us, who should we expect to hear and see as guests on the podcast that you and Yusuf are going to have?
Honestly, in what I said about migration displacing yourself. So why is that podcast important for our stories? Because we are trying to teach and give you tools, whether you're interested in displacing yourself or you're just home, even displacing yourself from your home to college. That's displacement still, right? You're coming out of your comfort zone. So we are trying to tell our stories in order for you guys to pick and choose whatever tools and lessons that will serve you well as you go through your new journey or new phase in your life, by mastering an unlimited mindset, by eliminating limited beliefs. Now, we believe that our belief system right, constitute the way we conduct ourselves. Now, but study will show you that every 5 years as an adult, you will go through a remodeling phase of your belief system, because the beliefs and values that don't serve you anymore, you have to pack it, just like different seasons, right? You put your sweaters away, you bring your summer stuff out. It's the exactly same thing. But what's happening with immigrant, that when you go through the phase of redesigning, right, or renovating that belief system, there is the blanket of guilt, right, and betrayal that you feel, because you feel like you're ripping your roots out. It's like, I cannot get rid of my belief system. These are my ancestor belief system. I am not worthy of changing that. I should stick to it. But you have to kind of balance to see what serves you, what not. So don't go through that. And we're going to have an episode about the guilt, and we feel like the feeling of betrayal of our family by putting away the old beliefs and creating our own belief system as an adult, as an immigrant, displacing ourselves in somewhere new.
Mhm.
The guests that we want to bring in, guests that they're entrepreneurs, leaders, mostly immigrant as much as possible, immigrant Arabs or any kind of immigrant. To give you an example, in my team in Hudson, we have a wonderful, beautiful young lady. She is from the Dominican Republic. And she was so excited about the podcast. And I went into the break room the other day and she was listening. I'm like, that sounds familiar. She goes, Dr. Slava, it's you. I'm listening to, and she started crying. She was like, I'm listening to one of the episodes. You're absolutely right. I'm like, oh my God. So I told her, and I said, if you're comfortable, I would love to have you on my podcast to tell your story and your parents' story coming from the Dominican. And but we are also inviting Arab entrepreneurs, American Arab entrepreneurs, that will shed a light on their intellect, the journey of their
Yes,
education.
that's that special series you're planning for
Yeah,
Palestinian intellect or Arab
discovering,
intellect.
discovering Palestinian intellect, discovering Palestinian entrepreneurs, but also we're going to interview other American Arabs, whether first generation American or first generation immigrant. It doesn't really matter. We're trying to shed a light in order for us to champion the stigma that we are not just people coming out of conflict and we just want to work, and we're not motivated and driven. But what actually inspired that discovering Palestinian intellect is the article that was published by Columbia Press Globe, Columbia University, on the 23rd of August 2023, and it was titled, I just came across it and I was like dumbfounded by it. Why are Palestinians the most educated refugees in the world, or the world most educated refugees? And I start reading the articles and I start crying because my dad is Palestinian and he was intellect. He was a world-renowned writer and a political analyst. And he always suffered by finding his place in the world because he always had that black blanket of stigma and stereotype that he's Palestinian, don't listen to him, they're very too passionate, too controversial kind of thing. But he made his way and he was very successful, but I don't believe that he got the acknowledgement that he really deserved as an intellect, as a human intellect, not as a race. And that's why we created the Discovering Palestinian Intellects. But we just it's a combination of what the immigrant go through in order to make it. And as an immigrant, as you know, Dr. Alisa, we are an overachiever and we overcompensate by overachieving, because the stigma of that, we have to overshine in order for us to be noticed and in order
Yes.
for us to be rewarded what it is our fundamental right as humans. If you have education, you should get that job. If you have the knowledge, you should get that position. If you have the experience, you should be acknowledged and you should be celebrated for your achievements. So,
Yes.
but in order for us to shine, right, we have to compensate for that by overachieving and over accomplishing. And that's why we're driven for education. We don't stop at a bachelor, master's, PhD, owning business, opening business, franchise, brands.
Yeah.
Here, look, I can do more. Here I am. Look at me. So yeah. But I hope that answers your questions.
Absolutely. So there's, again, guys, you have it here. You can check it out. We are going to put up the link here. Let me go ahead and start getting that up for us. If you just scan this QR code, you'll be able to go directly to chatting with Slava the Jordanian at buzzsprout.com, where is our hosting platform that has a list of all the episodes there and the different platforms where you can find it. And then you will also get a little bit more background on Dr. Slava and JD Youssef, and then the guests that are coming up. So, Dr. Slava, I have a couple questions for you, because a lot of people who are listening now with us live and later are going to be like, well, you started a podcast around your culture, your stories. And well, just so you all know, it's way more intricate than that. Of course, she wants to help everyone around the globe master their mindset by eliminating limiting belief and thoughts. And that was the goal. But when you're doing a podcast, one of the things, or anything at all, you want to be keen on who you want to impact the most primarily. And so her primary thing is not who, it's also what. It's she wants to shed light on her Arab culture and her Palestinian heritage, so the world can see them as who they truly are versus what we think they are. And then secondly, she wants to uplift and provide content to those individuals so they can have people to relate to. So that has everything to do with the rest of us, right? But that's a niching. And so the question I want to ask you, Dr. Slava, as you said, I sort of give you that nod as, you know, a sister, friend, and colleague, that this is where you should go. Here's what I would say before I ask you this question: why podcast, right? And podcasting, when you do social media, like right now, we're live on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. We're live on at least five platforms right now. The thing about those platforms, they can shadow ban your content, where they decide to show it to 5 people today and not show it to anyone. And then all of a sudden you wake up and 200 people like your stuff. They saw that. They decide what they want to show. I tried to post on TikTok, and I realized after all the banning and stuff that they have to approve my content before it gets shared. That is a limited reach. If you are a thought leader, if you are a entrepreneur, whatever content you're sharing, or just a content creator, that you see a lot of people who make good money, they get checks off of content creation, all well and great, but there's still a small number of people that actually sees most of what we post. No matter how many followers I have, some things people just don't respond to. But I don't post to get numbers. I post to get interaction from people who need it, and that's it. I walk away, we schedule our post, and we move on. But with podcasts, the distinct difference is that when you put it out on multiple platforms, then those platforms share it to other platforms. It's unlimited the amount of people you would meet. And the other thing, no one messes with it. And if you have, like us at Mindset Mastery, Mindset Media, we have thousands of followers. Dr. Slava is building up her slowly. And we have 9,000 people following just on Apple alone. It's not so much those numbers, it's the quality of who gets impacted and what they learn and how they transform, right? Podcasting gives you that opportunity to connect with a tribe that wants to hear what you have to offer. This is why people want to be on the podcast, because they're hoping that their message combined with ours is going to reach people who it's for. And no one messes with it. At least they haven't started messing. There's no algorithm as to who listens to your podcast. You put it out there, you send people there, people just stumble on your podcast because they're looking for a particular keyword, and that's what's on yours. So they decide to take a listen, and now they're locked in and they're growing and learning from that. That is the magic of podcasts. But Dr. Slava, you have the unique thing that I didn't have when I start my podcast. I started my podcast on my own.
Don't sell yourself.
No, I didn't have what you have, right? And here's the question: how much less stressful is it for you with the production of articulating your message? You just have to get on camera. It's a lot. That's a lot, because this is why people only get 6 episodes out and they quit. The big part is you get to record your conversations and throw it into a Dropbox. And then boom, you have a podcast episode that's live all over the world. through Mindset Mastery Media. How easy is that for you, and how much relief do you have from that?
Honestly, like I mentioned before in the beginning of this live session, that it's all about storytelling. I think, to be honest with you, I talked to my life coach about it before I started, and it's like, this is completely out of my comfort zone.
I
I do
know.
dentistry. It's like 1 hour by the hour. Nobody knows what I'm doing. Nobody knows what I'm saying. Maybe my patient will share my stories, but that's it. But this is like live. She goes, well, you got this. That's all she said. I'm like, okay, bye. So, but when I told my husband about it, it's like, I think I should. He told me 2 years ago, Slava, you should do a podcast. I'm like, no, you're just kidding. Don't tease me. He goes, no, you got a lot to say about a lot of stuff. And I said, do you mean that I talk a lot? He goes, no, no, no. But you have so many stories. You can inspire a lot of people, because he saw the interaction and the feedback and response from my
Yeah.
patient and my team. I was like, you should do something. And he even told me maybe write a book first and then the podcast. But I talk all day long. Like I said, I mentor, teach,
Yes.
and lead 30 members of my team. And between the three offices, we have 7,000 active patients. So, and those are from age 1 to age 103. So, from all different walks of life, from all over the world, especially because our location in southern New Hampshire,
Mhm.
a lot of people come from Europe, Africa, Asia, India. So, and I love that part, because like I get to tell my story and they know exactly where I'm coming from, and we get to share our stories. Like, did you notice this when you came to this country? Did you notice that when you came to this country? But it's not it's the first episode, I have to tell, I was so nervous because I wanted to be articulated. English is not my first language. I used to speak 3 languages, but now I speak only 2 languages. Or I used to speak 4. But it's different when you try to articulate and choose your words in a way to paint the picture of the story. You have to paint the story so people can feel it, see it, envision it, and walk through the story with
Yes.
you. But being on camera, it's not for me, as if like I talk to myself a lot. Sometimes like, okay, what do I need to do and stuff like that. But because I am always talking to whether my life coach, my patient, my board, my team, and I'm teaching all the time. Telling my story, like I said, is part of my culture. It comes very natural, and we're very friendly. I went to school in New York City. I used to sit on the bus and just talk to people, on the bench, talk to people. I used to go into churches just to meditate and calm down from the stress of dental school. And I used to talk to the priest, I was like, oh, where are you from? So, but that's more of the culture that helped me. That tool helped me just to be at ease in front of the camera. And of course, you do all the work of editing and stuff like that. But the toughest part, honestly, is just dragging JD Yusuf in front of the camera, because he's not very comfortable.
He's doing
He's
a
a lawyer. You
great
know how
job
lawyers
now,
are.
though.
They're very concerned. Yes, he is, and he's opening up a lot more. And but it's the mindset. And I told him that. I said, you cannot be limiting yourself. We are conducting to master a mind, an unlimited mindset, by eliminating limited beliefs. You got to eliminate that belief that nobody
Right.
cares. Then you're going to start like, oh my God, people are actually listening. And I said, can you imagine how many people you're going to be helping by sharing those stories? Yeah, it wasn't hard. It wasn't hard me being in front of the
Not at
camera. It
all.
just, I
Yeah.
had to focus and not go on and on and on, because I can go on and on and on, because I have a lot to
I have
say.
a lot. This is why you
According to
have a
my husband,
podcast. You
well,
have an
36
episode.
years in this country. Yeah, 36 years in this country away from home, and 26 years in dentistry, and then being with businesses, and there's a lot of experience. There's a lot to talk about,
Exactly. And
basically.
that's the wonderful thing,
Yeah,
because you have so much to offer anyone, and
thank you.
you're able to put that down with podcast. That's going to be there perpetually for life, and
Yeah.
then with the world and how technology is evolving, it becomes something else. And
Yeah.
so what my question is, do you find it, are you more at ease knowing, hey, I just got to get in and get the conversation recorded and get it over to Dr. Lisa and the team, and they'll produce the whole thing and it'll be out there. And then look, I can walk around and hear people listen, and I could hear transformation because of me sharing my story. Does that make life a whole lot easier for you as a new podcaster?
Yes, honestly, the mindset that I have is what would be the end result. Why am I
Mhm.
doing it? It's not when I'm doing it or what
Mhm.
I am doing. It's why am I doing it?
Absolutely.
And as long as you keep that message in part of your belief system that I am doing it to leave something behind for humanity. Otherwise, humanity will cease to exist if we stop telling
Stories.
our stories. I don't care who listens, honestly. I'm throwing it out there. And that's the mindset that I created when I got nervous. It's like, oh my God, it's out of my comfort zone. I'm going to be judged because our culture, it's very critical. If you don't do it right, don't do it at all, kind of thing. And I said on the podcast, like in my household, it's more valuable to be right than to be loved in my household because
Mhm.
my
Oh,
parents,
wow.
they taught us that you got to be right. You got to check your facts. You do not share anything if it's not right. Otherwise, keep your mouth shut.
Okay.
So, and then love comes later. Then they'll love you for it. That's basically it.
Ah.
So I had to remind myself that I'm throwing it out there in the ocean of social media. If somebody listened to it and be inspired, that's all I want. And if I not longer exist on this earth and somebody just stumbled on my podcast and like, oh my God, it helped me so much, I'll be a happy soul up there, hopefully.
Absolutely. And Philip
Yeah.
says, I agree. I am a podcaster experiencing that now. Oh, wow. That's awesome. Dr. Anastasia
There
say,
you
good
go.
stuff. You guys look fabulous. Thank you, sister and fellow ambassador. Deb says she is watching on YouTube. And let me see, what else did she say? She said, and she's so proud to be a part of the team of Team Humanity. That's our sister. That's our other part of the dynamic trio. And so thank you, Dr. Kareem, for the fire. We appreciate that. So we're coming down to the end, Dr. Slava, and I want to let everyone know another second part of us coming here is to let you know that we absolutely are opening the space for other podcasters. And of course, it's not
Yes.
for everyone, but you can be a part of becoming a podcaster if you are a thought leader, if you are a subject matter expert. Like Dr. Slava, she is a subject matter expert in the area of dentistry and obviously entrepreneurship. However, she is working in a space where she's now helping individuals master their mindset. And then with Mindset Mastery 360 as our chief strategic officer, she is leading us on strategy to take what we have and what we've been building through the path of taking it further and ensuring things get to people that need it through mindset mastery, right? So the
Yeah.
podcast success that I've had, Dr. Slava, with mindset mastery moments, and it's not about numbers. Yes, we have the great fortune of saying top 1% because we are. We have the fortune of saying we got so many downloads. Yeah, that's all great for whoever determined this stuff works for podcasts. But I think the greatest accomplishment for me, and I know you will enjoy this too, and I think that's what Philip was saying here, Mr. Baker saying he's also a podcaster, is that you get to sit with so many remarkable individuals and have what I call timeless and transformative conversation for not just the viewers and listeners, but for yourself. You also get
Yes.
to talk to people you would have never met because everyone that's on my podcast, you guys, I will have you know, outside of my sisters and my friends and my colleagues like Dr. Slava, I invited her to be on the podcast. I invited Deb to be on the podcast. I invited Dr. Kareem, who was our very first guest on the podcast. Everyone else, I think that's it. There's a couple others that are from our community, from the MM360 community, that I'm like, you need to come on there. And then they have to go to the calendar, and it's like, oh, I gotta wait 3 months. Like Arthur, my friend, he was on the other day, and he's like, he was booking in like May, and he's like, I don't know where I'm gonna be in November, but I'm gonna go ahead and put it down. Well, we recorded that episode, and it just got aired a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I
That's
saw that.
only because the calendar to have people on my podcast, which we don't charge for, is so long. The list of people who want to be a part of the conversation to bring this light and life to humanity is long. And that is the privilege and honor that I have, that we have, to host these people and have these conversations. Do you want to do that for yourself around what you are doing? Now, our brand and our mission is mindset mastery. But if there's somewhere that your podcast or your concept for a podcast might align with what we're doing here, we are opening up the space to be a part of this media of what we're calling mindset mastery media, where you can have your podcast. I am going to have a podcast course that we launch in April where we will teach you how to simply, don't overthink it. You don't need a whole lot of tools. Don't let the people who you seeing a lot of social media ads, don't jump into some program where they're like, oh yeah, we'll get your podcast and get 1 million views. Nobody cares about views. We care about impact
Yeah.
and transformation. If you're not doing that, you're not doing anything, right? If you're not attracting people who are like, listen, I want to be on there, they're emailing you or they have their bookers calling you every day to have that conversation, then you're not impacting, because everyone who comes on my podcast is a listener of my podcast. And those are very hardworking people who are doing what they need to do in mindset mastery in their own right. Do you want to create that? Go to info@alisawhyte.com. Just shoot me an email and say, send me the link so you can get a form from us where we will tell you how you can be a part of the training if you don't already have a podcast, how you can create a system around your podcast to create that level of impact as an entrepreneur, as a thought leader, as a world changer. Okay. Just like Dr. Slava, she is the first. We have another one coming and another one coming. Dr. Kareem and I are working on a project. We'll be back on live to tell you about that too. We're going to have multiple podcasts from MM360 as well, with different hosts and different podcasts. We are building this place of on-demand content that resonates with the world. That's all we do to master your mindset, to create transformation in your life, your business, your career, and ultimately your world. Dr. Slava, let's share the link again to let everyone know where to listen to Chatting with Slava the Jordanian, because I know for me, the episodes are surprisingly transformational. I've had some eye-opening moments. I've had tear-jerking moments, and I've had a whole lot of laughs as well. So I love the what you're doing, and I know over time you evolve and add even more because of the plan, the clear vision that you have for your podcast. Chatting with Slava the Jordanian. Here is the QR code, or if it will take you directly to the website where you'll find a player. If you like to listen to Spotify, on Spotify, it's there. If you like to listen on YouTube, it's there. We've got audio and video episodes on YouTube if that's easier, if you're in some part of the world where maybe it's a challenge to download an app. We love asking you to go on Apple and stream on Apple. Apple is the main podcasting. They started podcast to begin with. And also, it will be nice to a year from now, seeing Dr. Slava being one of the top podcasts in self-help and self-improvement, as I have had the honor to be in and out and up and down the ladder for the last year and a half. We're competitive. We're immigrants as well. We always reach for the stars, and then we're like, oh,
Of
we're
course.
here, stars. What's beyond the stars? So let's go. We keep going. We never
Yes.
stop, right? And I believe that
Yes.
is the spirit actually of humanity. However, we seem to lose that over the course of life. And what these conversations are about, to inspire and ignite what's already in you. You are also, just because you didn't have the immigrant experience exactly for yourself, you are a winner. I tell everyone, the fact that you are here right now means you've overcome all the crazy things that was and unfortunate things in your journey. And that's why you're here. You have a track record. You have a track record. So it's when someone tells you they're a winner, it's like, we all are, is what you should be saying. Just tell me how you win. So Dr. Slava and JD, and then the guests that are coming, are going to keep telling you and inspiring you how you can continue to master your unlimited mindset. Dr. Slava, what else did you want to share with us before we go?
Honestly, just the biggest advice is to remember that your thoughts create your future. Number one. Number two, nobody's in your head. There is a plethora of thoughts. It's the Amazon of thoughts.
Yes.
So if you order a limiting thought, you're going to get that thought back.
Yeah.
When you have an order on Amazon, if you're ordering water, you're not going to get a book. You are going to get a water.
Yes.
remember, the universe have no sense of humor. The universe, if you're dwelling on a limiting thought, the universe is gonna send you more things to limit you because the universe thinks that's what you want. So again, do not limit yourself. Do not dwell on the details. Just focus on the why you're doing it,
Yes.
the reason that you're doing it. I'm passionate about it. It's the right thing to do. I want to help people. I want to inspire people. Focus on the reason why you're doing it, and everything is just gonna come into place and fit exact perfectly the way you actually want it. But again, hopefully you guys will enjoy those episodes. And we're not perfect. Trust me, we stumbled many years, many times through the years. And that's why we have the experience. Knowledge and experience are two different things. You know how to do a podcast, but it does, if you don't have the experience they're going to share on the podcast, you might want to talk to other people that have experienced it, and you gain knowledge from there and then transform it into your episodes. But I agree with you 100%, Dr. Lisa.
Absolutely. So much learning, so much growth. Let me tell you, podcasting is not just simple, it is a lot of work. But with what we've put together with the platform to facilitate the production and publishing of podcasts,
Yeah.
I believe more people who have something empowering to say and do in the world will be able to do it. Because I will say it's not hard for me or Dr. Slava to get in front of a camera or a microphone. Not at all. But what's hard is having to deal with scheduling guests, putting up this thing and making sure it's on all the platforms, making sure the video is edited. We're not created for that. But I've had to do it, right? But at Mindset Master Media, we have created the space to facilitate that process for you and with you. And then I will obviously, like I said, be bringing that course to teach you how to take that. And I have my dynamic Dr. Slava will join me as well. And most importantly, we're happy to have Dr. Kareem R. Ellis, who is the number one breakthrough strategist and a master speaker trainer who will help you articulate that message as well, so that it makes sense to humanity, to who you want to target for your podcast.
Yes.
And then we help you with the production and get it out to the world without complication, guys. It's not as hard as some people want you to think, to make you spend thousands and thousands of dollars. When I looked at someone editing and producing my podcast, they told me $1,200 an episode. And I'm like, I don't care if I have $1 million. I value that, but we're not in a studio. This is a virtual podcast. If we're in a studio and
Yeah.
they're bringing me in a studio with a whole production team and all that, we're not there yet, but that's the goal, Dr. Slava. We will have that in a
We'll
couple
get there.
years.
We'll get
We will
there.
have Mindset,
Yeah.
Mindset Mastery Media production studios. I know we will. Maybe it'll be in New Hampshire. Maybe it'll be in Arizona. I don't know. But you
Yeah.
guys,
Humble
Humble
beginnings.
beginnings is where we start virtually. If you're ready to do it, send me an email at info@alisawhyte.com and I will direct you in that path. But we'll keep posting. But for now, subscribe, please. Give us a review, like, and share Chatting with Slava the Jordanian. Again, it sounds, don't let the name and the title fool you. This is going to be more surprisingly transformational for you than you could ever think. And as always, we're going to invite you to keep mastering your mindset and keep growing yourself and your network to make impact for humanity. Dr. Slava, I'm going to let you say your words too.
Yes, please do not stop sharing your stories for the sake of humanity. Humanity, I guarantee, I promise you, it will cease to exist if we stop sharing our stories. That's how we grow, that's how we survive, that's how we thrive. So, for the sake of humanity, continue telling your story and do not limit yourself by fear, do not limit yourself by worried about being judged. Just tell the story, let everybody and everything else take care of the rest.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Slava, for your time with us
You're welcome.
today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you all. Thank you,
Yeah.
Philip, for hanging out with us. Dr. Anastasia, Deborah, our sis, we love you. Dr. Kareem, we adore you. And Samuel, all the way from Spain, where it's getting pretty late. We thank you for staying through with us. And for those, if you're watching the replay, just put replay in the chat. Give us feedback and comments. We hope we might have missed some of them because we're not bringing in all the chats in. I think I'm not doing it right, but that's what happens when you leave me to be a producer, director, and a host. That doesn't work all at once. I'm still learning how to be that, and by God's grace, I can leave. But again, stay tuned for more from Chatting with Slava the Jordanian and Mindset Mastery Media. And we love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Keep mastering your mindset. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.